ability to put themselves in a prime spot to continue to play in front of the fans here at Clockner? Well, it's one step at a time for Virginia as they attempt to do that among the national seeds coming into this tournament. You know what you're looking for from a scoring standpoint. This is a Virginia team that has been led by Leo Afonso throughout the course of the season. His 7 goals and 4 assists have him atop the sheet with 18 points. Philip Horton has pitched in nicely with 5 goals. Bogu has 6 goals along the way. Horton, by the way, also with those 3 assists. So he's put together a 13-point total. Those really the players at the top for the Virginia Cavaliers. For Marshall, they have been led across the course of the season by Matthew Bell. Bell, who has been one of those super freshmen, and the Jamaica native is atop the stat sheet with the 9 goals, also has 4 assists for a 22-point total. He is not alone, as Milo Yosef and Zoal Souza have both been extremely solid in the supporting cast for this Marshall Thundering Herd squad. And this is a Marshall team, not far removed from those magical moments of NCAA tournaments past. So 2 tremendously successful programs. You look no further than what Virginia has been able to do over the years with the 7 national championships and the 13 College Cup appearances. They understand the challenge that is in front of them today with this talented Marshall Thundering Herd team. You see them getting ready, final preparations being made as the lineups are being announced. And, you think back to those 7 national championships and the 13 College Cup appearances for Virginia. It really was just a few years ago that Virginia duked it out with Georgetown in the final, required PKs to settle it. But then Virginia saw the pause button hit on that tremendous streak, on that tremendous run of tournament berths, only to find this group would become the group to return to that type of national prominence, and as a result of it all, notch for themselves one of those national seeds. And with the 4 beside their name, Virginia in position to keep playing at home if they could find a way to advance forward and get the job done. And certainly Marshall going to provide quite a challenge to that end along the way here today. Mohamed Seydu was the hero of the contest for Marshall in the first round of the tournament. We mentioned the goal in the 44th minute, which propelled the Thundering Herd past the Phoenix of Elon. That late first half goal, the only scoring in that contest on a day in which Marshall was outshot by the Phoenix by a total of 8-7, so -1 in that category. But the Thundering Herd so strong in providing for themselves opportunities and set pieces. They had the 10 corners that were earned, a +3 advantage for them in that category, and it was a great day with the 3 saves in goal for Marshall. Such a difference maker, and you would expect that he would be again here today. Simla, who was just outstanding in that match, he had 3 saves opposite his counterpart with a couple as both keepers were tested. You would expect that would be the case again here today with both he and the staple in the Virginia goal that will be opposite him, Holden Brown. You get a good look right there at the grad student out of Germany who will handle those responsibilities in between the posts for the Thundering Herd. And it looks like we are just about ready as Holden Brown moves toward his location. Zionsville, Indiana native, now in his sophomore campaign as the Virginia goalkeeper. In fact, every minute of Virginia's season, he has been in goal for UVA. One more moment, one more private moment for this UVA men's soccer team before they disperse themselves out onto the field and get ready for their first tournament action of 2022 in the second round of the NCAA Pursuit. After Virginia, as we said, earned with a tremendous run through the end of the season, and then a thrilling ACC tournament that saw Virginia come up just short in that contest against third-ranked Syracuse back on the 9th that prevented them from moving forward into the pursuit of an ACC championship. But right there on the cusp, and a year in which Virginia has returned to a double-digit win total. They went 5-1-2 in the ACC, and it finished with a record of 10 wins with 4 losses and the 4 draws overall. That's opposite a Marshall squad that comes in today 11-3-3. It's a Marshall team that away from home, you may want to keep an eye on that, was 4-1 and 3, the 3 draws and the 1 loss away from home. And that matches what was their conference record overall, 4-1 and 3 for the Thundering Herd along the way in the conference season. With that, we are underway between these two teams. It'll be interesting to see who can own possession early in this contest and set the tone for what should be a lengthy, engaging, and important Sunday in the pursuit of a College Cup championship. A little back and forth to get things started. Again, you look at the trio of Afonso, Horton, Bogu in so many ways from a scoring standpoint for Virginia. Some of the familiar faces from that latest run for UVA we talked about just a few years ago in 19. Uland, who is tremendous defender for UVA, can create in so many ways. First look perhaps coming from Marshall here. There's going to be a shot trying to connect far post. It was not to be as it goes wide from Milo Yosef. We told you Yosef had the 8 goals and the 3 assists along the way, 19 points, trailing only Matthew Bell, who has the 9 goals and the 4 assists atop the Marshall sheet. So those are the individuals that you would expect to be heavily involved in the scoring chances along the way today. It should come as no surprise as the first shot for Marshall comes from one of those performers. The third that you keep an eye on that we talked about coming into things was Zoal Souza, wearing jersey number 11 for the Thundering Herd. So the first glance at it comes from Marshall, who, as I mentioned, was outshot by the Elon Phoenix. In the first half, it was Marshall with an advantage of 3-2, but the Phoenix had 6 shots to Marshall's 4 in the second half as the total settled out to 8-7 in favor of the Phoenix. But what mattered most, Marshall picking up that long goal in the latter stages of the first half for the 1-0 final. Hefty collision right at the midfield. You certainly hope we're going to see a continuation for both of these young men working toward his feet. Is Adam Aomash, and that's a great sign to see him up and moving around because he took the tougher end of what was a nasty collision right in the midfield. Up and moving, the clock is beginning to be so. You just tip your cap to these training staffs, do you not? It's been a long season. You know, you're having to reach down and find enough legs, find enough energy. Not that the adrenaline that's pumping through the veins when you're in a championship pursuit is not enough, but it's been a long year. Few are those out there not dealing with some type of injury, and the training staff's keeping them in action. And tip of the cap to that training group for Marshall getting out there. And best news of the day so far, up and moving, in hopes that 33 can continue here momentarily. Saw one of the first times that Holden Brown gets to kind of throw it out there and see what his Cavaliers can do. This Virginia team seeing Marshall earn early possession and take what thus far has been the match's only shot. Just as it looked like something may be materializing for Philip Horton, turned away. Talked about Euland a little bit ago. Horton, the other, who has the memories now in his junior campaign of what it was like, Virginia making those deep pursuits, those deep runs into the NCAA tournament. Back this time as a 4 seed, one of 8 ACC teams in the field. And if that doesn't speak to the strength of the conference, more than any other conference in the country, the representatives out of the ACC, and they're not only there, they are highly regarded coming into this tournament. We'll walk through some of the action that is taking place around the country as we get deeper into the day. The ACC right in the thick of it, and Virginia among those highly representing it. Goal kick coming from Marshall. There's a pretty good look, one of your better ones so far. The grad student from Germany. Euland being rode down the line, still found a way to get a header on it, but it's into the grasp of Marshall, who will win the ball. That's going to be tough to keep alive, and it will be Virginia's as it work beyond the line. Cavaliers, as I mentioned, one of the top 16 seeds receiving that first round bye. And as a top 4 seed, with the 4 beside their name, a chance to stay home all the way to a College Cup appearance in Cary, North Carolina, if Virginia is effective enough and fortunate enough to continue to advance that far. Certainly in the mind, and with the return of this team to prominence, the pieces there for that to be in the cards for UVA here in 2022. Another goal kick coming from Marshall. Paul Visa there. One native of Germany giving way to a keeper that's another. As we call the sophomore name for the first time, officially second year on the roster as it's termed here on grounds at UVA. One fairly early shot for Marshall. That is what we've seen between these two teams. Much of the match has been what you're experiencing right now with 5+ gone. Attempting to lay that out there in an area where maybe Joseph could take a look at another. He had the earlier shot for Marshall, but Virginia adjusts and keeps that from becoming a reality. By the way, a couple of ACC teams among those top 4 seeds, earning those first round byes and those trips toward the College Cup if they can make it work. Of course, Syracuse, that Virginia tangled with in the ACC tournament, with the 3 beside their name. And then Washington, the 2 seed, Kentucky, the 1, if you're looking at the 4 that were given the path with the release of the bracket. Here's Virginia's first real chance, first real look. And cut a flip as he earns the opportunity for UVA is Philip Horton. Junior out of New Albany in Ohio. Provides the challenge to Seydoux, and here comes Virginia's initial set piece of the match. Megarov takes it. Sent into traffic like it caromed off of a member of that thundering herd down there near the top of the 6. As a result, Virginia will switch sides and try a second corner in succession. Good look at Leo Afonso right there at the face of the goal. He turns and checks on the location of the keeper, Simla. This was a category that Marshall dominated in their battle with the Phoenix. Virginia has the 2 early looks from the corner. Let's see what happens near side. That header well above the bar, and Virginia's initial 2 corners turned away by Marshall. But a shot goes up on the board for UVA, even in that category now with the Thundering Herd. Trademark handling of the goal kick for Marshall. Hewlin chases this, and he'll decide just to turn and let Holden Brown do something with it. Talk about picking your spots. We referenced the goal from Mohamed Seydu in the first round of the NCAA tournament. First goal of the year. Well high. Was assisted on that goal by the senior Gabrielle Alvis. And then the sixth shutout of the season, the other major storyline from the first round of the tournament for Simla, who now has a save percentage of .760. He was tops in the conference, as is so often the case. The goalkeeper so very strong when you're able to be among those advancing to the NCAA tournament. You have to be solid in that category, and boy, was he ever against the Phoenix. Popped a little high, gets the whistle. You watch Axel Allender trot away, one of the many additions for UVA, and a roster that was pieced together by longtime head coach George Gelnevach, who has his team back in the tournament, back in action for the first time in this year's tournament. 27 seasons in. And his fingerprints, because of the different roles he has played for UVA. The 87 grad, as either a player, an assistant, or a head coach, has been on everything that Virginia has done in the tremendous history of this program. Holden Brown using the header for Virginia as he comes well out of pocket. Fourth consecutive NCAA tournament for Marshall, ranked in every poll since October 15th of 19. Putting together a potential chance here. A 1v1 to get in the box and look for a shooting window. It is not to be just yet for Joseph. In the end, Virginia closed up the gaps pretty nicely. You may be wondering about the prior meetings between these teams. All Virginia, all 6 meetings going the Cavaliers' direction. They will pause for just a moment to see if Joseph is able to continue. Again, he's been the key contributor thus far for Marshall. Has one of the 2 shots, and the main assist man from the first round of the tournament. Gabrielle Alvis has the other. 2 shots apiece for these squads. Virginia's coming from the combo of Horton and Hewlin, interestingly enough, thus far. But just finishing up on that series, 6-0 Virginia. The last meeting was in 2018. And the Cavaliers notched a 1-0 win that go-round. Of course, Virginia led by Afonso. 18 points, the team high 7 goals. You know, he fires at a clip of 3.72 shots per game. 1.5 of those on target. And on cue, here is Afonso just trying to get something off, but not enough juice on it to work it by the keeper. So it'll trickle into the hands of Simla. Those are the key numbers for Afonso. You put that opposite The defensive work for Virginia. Oh, just out of Horton's reach. That's lofted up from some distance. A header, but it's wide to the right side. Who did it make contact with last? Looks like it will be Marshall. Corner kick coming for UVA. So credit Reese Miller for getting in there, fighting for the Virginia opportunity. The first year out of Houston, Texas. As this is chased far side by Mengeroff again. Georgia native weighs his options. That's a Marshall header to clear. Chasing it out from Marshall was Matthew Bell. Haven't called his name a lot just yet. Remember, Bell is the leader with those 9 goals and the 22-point total. He has 23 shots on goal, with 9 of them being goals this year. Had to do a little defensive work there for Marshall. Hurd setting up for the throw-in. Sending it back to the midfield. Wow, Virginia. See if Marshall can put something together to threaten Holden Brown. Brown, who has the 8 shutouts. We mentioned him playing every minute for Virginia on the season. His save percentage at .753 and a goals against average of 1.043. Length of the field required for Marshall right now as they work from just outside their own goal. That's sent down where Ryan Holmes had a crack at it. He's now down. And whistles begin to blow as that works toward Holden Brown. You hear the chatter as for the second time in the early stages, the training staff is going to be called for. This time to tend to the freshman in-state product, Ryan Holmes. Holmes, who has been a regular this season, started a handful in a row down the stretch, and more than one occasion has been out there all 90. And a brace versus Pacific, that is one of the memorable moments of his contributions for Marshall. But right now, after a collision near the midfield, is down and being seen to by this Marshall training staff. See Reese Miller come over for the Cavaliers, as they seem to be working. Right up around the forehead on. Well, no. Now that you get a little better look at that. Those seeming to be the issue right now for Holmes. Hopefully can get him squared away fairly quickly. We saw a good result earlier. As Ilmash was able to work away under his own power, and this, while it is taking a little bit of time, doesn't give the appearance of being, and you certainly hope not, incredibly serious right now in the case of Holmes. Give us a chance to reset some of the numbers for you. 4 shots for Virginia to 2 of them for Marshall thus far. One of those shots for Virginia on goal, resulting in the only save to this point, which belongs to Oliver Simla. Three fouls assessed Virginia. You speaks to the physical nature that we've seen thus far. Training staff back out there once more. And all three corners earned by Virginia. So as you're looking at what direction the numbers are trending through the first now nearly third of the opening half. Cavaliers flipping some of those of late. And a yellow card, when all is said and done, is going to be assessed. Reese Miller. So coming over and imploring Miller related to the future of the day. Our referee, Stephen Foster, raises that yellow card in the air. It's the first caution that we have seen in the match. Jotting that down as he talks things over with Virginia's Holden Brown. Talked about Brown, what a staple he has been in goal, 1,640 minutes, all 19 games, 8 shutouts gathered up along the way in this 10-4-4 run for Virginia through 2022. Fans at Klockner applauding the foul call. As Morris Duggan is whistled for the infraction. And here comes a set piece for Virginia that is right on the edge of that attacking third. UVA with both Mangarov and Visa standing by. Visa playing that for a header. One is answered by another, and it is cleared out of there by Gabrielle Alvis, who prevents Virginia from changing the score. Albus and Hewlin were both going for the header there. The positioning true enough for Alvis to win the battle. And now a foul on UVA up near the midfield. First ever meeting between Marshall and Virginia in the NCAA tournament. 6 prior meetings, we told you, all won by Virginia. Most recently in 2018 when UVA defeated Marshall at home by a count of 1-0. That 1-0 win coming a few years ago, but none of that in NCAA tournament action.
Marshall.
And a foul whistled against the Thundering Herd, and now a Virginia player down as our referee, Mr. Foster, attempts to take control. You can see his quick response. And Souza walks away. And Virginia a little closer in proximity now. Let's see if the Cavaliers opt to play this straight on. The yellow was assessed. So one of those each direction now, as the cautions have come out in the last several moments. Visa took the last, played it to the top of the 6. And a header cleared it. This one will loft up and over. as it will be a goal kick for Marshall once the dust settles. So a sixth shot goes up on the scoreboard for the Cavaliers. At this point, the two of those for Marshall. But nothing just yet. In terms of goals on either side. Remember, Marshall's in that earlier NCAA tournament contest came right before the intermission in the 44th minute. Playing in a tough corner as Afonso is there to contest it. He stepped away for a moment. Yellows assessed Reese Miller of Virginia. And Zoao Souza of Marshall in the 15th and 17th minutes respectively. Header and then a clear. Let's see what Marshall can do in transition. Numbers there for Virginia as the Cavaliers get back and snuff this out. Weighing the options. And now playing this long. So Virginia was there to shield it on the quick reaction. For UVA of Gashi, who got back there. After all that, it'll be O'Connor who takes the throw in. Well, the portion of the field right in front of that technical area filled with bodies, and now it spreads out across the pitch a little more. Virginia assessed the foul. Mangaroff was there trying to contest. Majority of the fouls have been levied the Virginia direction. 5 fouls on the Cavaliers, just one whistled against Marshall thus far. But the Hoos also have been the more aggressive of the teams with 6 shots to 2 for Marshall. That was an advantage the Herd had early. But it has since been Virginia, partially by virtue of the 3 corners, and then you add in a couple of other set piece on fouls right on the edge of the attacking third that have allowed Virginia to put some chances together. None of those opportunities capitalized on just yet. Still just the 2 shots from the combo of Yosef and Alvis to this point. May change right here. Weaving through traffic to the top of the box, down at the very opening of the box. Continuation. Trying to play that toward the corner of the box. We're battling for it. And earning the corner is Ryan Holmes. You'll remember Holmes was the player most recently the clock was stopped for as they were seeing to him. Good to see he's been able to continue, and there he is, duking it out to earn the set piece for Marshall. This is the first corner of the day for the Herd, Virginia having already owned 3 of these. So we'll see what Marshall can do in an effort to pressure Holden Brown. Alvis comes over to take it. The senior out of Brazil takes a deep breath before putting a left foot into it. That's a header to clear for Virginia. Just lofted up. There's the second header, and it's in the back of the net for Marshall, but the flag was raised just prior to Yosef's delivery. There will be no goal. Back-to-back headers for Marshall as the Herd attempted to put the first goal up on the board, but you heard the whistle and the flag raised just prior to what would have been a 1-0 advantage for Marshall. As close as it gets timing-wise. When Josef, who had the first shot of the day, thought he had the first goal of the day. The sheet instead remains clean on both sides. Afonso being contested. He's been marked well, and among those doing so, Seydu, who was there in these moments.
Foul, Marshall.
There will be a foul call against Marshall as Gashi goes down quickly, grabs that left leg. Pops back up ahead of the Virginia set piece. An effort to simply calm it a bit in a conversation with Souza by our referee. Foot race as Afonso goes straight on at Simla, who was waiting. For Afonso, a second shot for Virginia and a 7th, personally that is, and a 7th overall for the Hoos. Here's how it looked. Played out in front of Afonso. He slows things up, makes a left-footed try. But Simla smothers it. 7 shots, a couple of them designated as on goal for UVA. This Virginia team with the other 7 that comes to mind, the national championships, Cavaliers' 3rd most in NCAA history in titles. I talked about how Coach Gelnovich has been a part of every championship team. That's either as a player, an assistant, or as the head coach. And a rare 2-season drought for Virginia after the 39 consecutive tournament appearances were placed in the record books. That run brought to a close after the 2019 appearance in the College Cup in the championship match. From 1980 to 2019, and his fingerprints on all of it, one way or another. Virginia had been a staple in this tournament, and it took a couple of years of hard work piecing together a roster and finding a way to get back to this spot. But this is certainly where the Cavaliers internally and the big picture nationally, most fans of the sport, expect to see Virginia. And it should come as no real surprise that when they did return, they returned as one of those national seeds in position to keep playing games at a place that has been very kind over the years, Klockner Stadium. Tripped up. It'll belong to Marshall. Display of sportsmanship. Visa reaches out. Helps Josef back to his feet. 10th time in program history, if you're wondering, that Virginia has been one of those top 4 national seeds. And when Virginia has earned a top 4 seed, has 6 times advanced to the College Cup, and on 2 occasions won the national championship. So it has worked out well being in the 4 slot for Virginia historically. Under 17 and a half to play in the opening period. Staying up, keeping this alive. Little cross, and the punch will drive it home. Virginia strikes first as Philip Horton, on a nice cross in from Reese Miller, has made it 1-0 UVA. Watch Miller somehow stay on his feet as he is contested just outside the box. Then a strong left foot cross, and Horton just the right amount of touch to deposit Virginia's first goal. So it is that the junior out of New Albany, Ohio, familiar with all that history we were discussing and the prior NCAA tournament runs for UVA, is able to provide the first of the goals in this contest in the 28th minute. And you credit Reese Miller, the first year out of the Lone Star State, the Houston product, the Houston Dynamo 2 performer, for his effort in creating that scoring opportunity. He is, as a result, given an assist. Interestingly enough, pick your spot in the NCAA tournament, right? His first assist of the year. Did have a couple of goals for UVA, now picks up an assist to go with it. And for Horton, that is his 6th goal, as he is just behind Leo Afonso near the top of the Virginia stat sheet. So a goal in the 28th minute for Philip Horton. An assist also being credited Gashi, by the way, on that now, in addition to Miller. For Gashi, that is his 2nd assist of the year. He was the player who put Miller in position to cross that to the foot of Horton. And there is a look at Gashi. Corner coming for UVA as they try to string a couple together now after notching the game's first goal in the 28th minute. Chasing the corner to the far side is Daniel Mangaroff. Luke, Georgia native, transferred over from UNCG, another tournament participant, another national seed in action today. Header clears that. Then a shot that is pawed out of there. Beautiful response and reaction by Simla to keep it 1-0. Gosh, he had designs on more than just the assist that he was credited with a moment ago. Uses the chest to deaden that, and a left-footed effort that was on target, but handled by the Marshall keeper. It is another Virginia corner as a result. Boy, the one deflection that nearly created a header chance for Aiden O'Connor, and you heard the faithful here at Klockner react to what they thought could be another from the doorstep on a potential header by O'Connor, but it just worked past him. "16 games, obviously taking place as the Sweet 16 will be set at the end of the weekend. In an effort to keep an eye on the scoreboard for you, particularly on that Indiana-St. Louis contest, from which the winner will face the victor here. We'll pass along some scores. It's 1-0 Indiana in that one as they are in the depths of the second half. In Bloomington, that, of course, getting started about an hour prior to our beginning. Of ACC consequence, Pitt leads Akron 1-0. Akron, the 16th seed. Get back to some of that moment. Here comes Marshall looking to equalize. And that rattles around off of a couple of UVA bodies, and Holden Brown is there to land on top of it to keep it 1-0. Duke a 2-1 lead on Denver. Duke, of course, the 7th seed in the tournament. That is in first half action as well in the 40th minute. Most everything else is either starting in about 8 minutes or a part of a night session, as the 16 spots will be settled in the next round of the tournament on this Sunday. So once more, Pitt 1, Akron nothing. That's in the 41st minute, late first half. Duke 2, Denver 1, also in the 41st minute. And Indiana trying to close out St. Louis, 85th minute, 1-0 Indiana. Only other game in action right now, the one you're witnessing, where Virginia, on the strength of a goal in the 28th minute from Philip Horton, leads it 1-0. Miller, who was in the thick of that, he had the other assist alongside Gashi, gets tangled up this time with Masi Younes. And it's whistled for the foul, so it'll belong to Marshall. Possession with the Herd. Under 11 and a half remaining in the opening portion of this second round contest. First ever postseason meeting between Virginia and Marshall. Marshall, if they could win here at Klockner today, would defeat Virginia for the first time in the program's history. But right now facing a 1-0 deficit late first half. You think about the way Virginia finished the year. Holden Brown tested once more, but just in front of that far side post, he steps up to take care of this. Cavaliers' last loss came back on the 4th of October. They were played to draws by second ranked at the time, Duke. Here comes a chance for Marshall, deadening it up, then left-footed try that will carry him away from Matthew Bell, the leading scorer for Marshall. Corner earned for the Herd. Finishing up on that as they trot over to take it. Duke, Hofstra, North Carolina, and then, of course, in the ACC tournament, Syracuse playing Virginia to draws. The last loss, though, again, coming against Denver back on the 4th of October. So strong finish to the season for Virginia. They've picked up on it in their first tournament action here. Marshall trying to level the match off a second corner opportunity today. And that's going to go behind the goal. And it'll be Holden Brown's to work with from here. Looking like Virginia's going to make a substitution. Kome Ubogu, who enters action with 6 goals for a 12-point total, which is third among goal scorers for Virginia on the year. We'll see action. Bogu out of Hoover, Alabama. And he's a second year officially on the roster for Virginia. Cavaliers have Mangroff down on the ground here, and he looks to be in some kind of pain. More than once in this first half, stoppages for members of the Thundering Herd to be seen too, and in recent moments, a couple of Virginia players down on the turf for an extended period of time. You see the conversation that takes place with Okiyoshi there. Good to see Daniel Mangroff now up to his feet. And it appears as if play is just about to continue with the Virginia set piece. Clock stopped at 8:26 to play. If you just happen to be finding us, it has been a physical match. In fact, a couple of cautions handed out already in this first half to Reese Miller, Virginia. And to Zoal Souza of Marshall in the 15th and 17th minutes respectively. And the only scoring in this one, Philip Horton's goal in the 28th minute on the assist of Reese Miller, and an assist credited to Gashi as well. Long, near side. Yosef. He'll work this backward. And Okiyoshi a little back and forth. Yosef, who was Sun Belt Conference Player of the Year. Top 50 in goals in the country in 22. A couple of multi-goal matches for him along the way. He stays out there on the pitch, certainly makes his contributions. The 8 goals, the 3 assists, earning him a point total of 19 along the way this season. Trailing only Matthew Bell, who has the 9 goals among scorers. Throw in coming for Marshall. Well, Hurd thought so. Virginia was contesting that all the way in the initial, or I should say the ultimate ruling after the initial throw in from Marshall is going to be that it will be Virginia's possession. Into Afonso. Finding the fresh legs of Bogu there for a moment. Little retreat. By Masayunas before he decided to simply work that back to Simla. Finds the foot of Yosef once again. And there was Bell. Get those two clicking and they start working together. It's meant trouble for everybody. Opposite Marshall this season. Quick little turnaround for Yosef. He finds some open real estate, but a left-footed clear for Virginia. Fonso weaves through traffic until he finds Euland. Visa has that kicked away from him momentarily, but he's got the Virginia throw in. Just what has this Marshall team done in recent seasons? October of 2019 when they cracked the top 25. They have continued to climb the rankings. So good in Huntington over that span, and so good really since Coach Grassi took over in 2017. Particularly in the games that they have either played at home or have been supposed to come out on top. This is a team that has handled its business in impressive fashion, and certainly a formidable opponent for anybody in the second round of the NCAA tournament, as Virginia's finding out 5 shots for Marshall already on the board, even though they've been doubled up by UVA and trail 1-0. Coach 6 seasons in under the highly regarded, highly respected head coach of the Herd. And so many captivated by that magical run in recent history for this program out of Huntington. Three minutes remaining in the opening half. Virginia having played a very physical affair, noted by the 10 fouls assessed the Cavaliers. 6 more than the whistles against Marshall thus far, but also noted by the 10 shots that Virginia has, which is double the total of the Herd. Cavaliers also earning the 5 corners, to just 2 of those for Marshall along the way. And this is a team that's earned 91 of them against 73 for opponents all year, Virginia. Ogu tried to lay that out there for Afonso. They continue to battle for possession right down to that final line. That battle won by Alvis as it's a goal kick for Marshall. Flip that over if you're wondering about it for Marshall. 111 corner kicks to 77 yielded along the way. So that's been a strength for both teams that you kind of kept an eye on coming in. And it's a category that has trended Virginia by a +3 margin as we dip inside the final 95 seconds of the opening half. Virginia team that outshoots its opponents 250 to 187. 257, pretty close to just 124 on the Marshall side of things. And again, that's 10-5 Virginia. Will it change here? Fancy footwork by Bell to try to find any shooting window, but the Cavaliers have kept those limited in the first half. Final minute of the first 45. A late first half push from Marshall to try and level the match. Herd trying to pitch a tent in that attacking third right now. That was taken away from Masi Yunus pretty quickly. Foul called against Marshall, as Afonso is going to be helped up after being cut a flip in his collision with Alvis, and a second yellow assessed the Thundering Herd in this first half is going to be handed down by Stephen Foster. We had the yellow on Virginia's Reese Miller in the 15th minute. That's where it started. Since a couple that have gone Marshall's direction. Souza in the 17th minute, and then the one you just saw for Alvis here in the 45th, and shot that sails well high. It's
10, 9,
appearing as if it's going to stay 1-0 Virginia
5,
at the intermission. Final seconds of the first half
1.
of this second round NCAA tournament matchup roll off the game clock, and you point back to the 28 begin the second half. The teams now know, or we at least now know, who the teams will be lining up against based upon activity taking place around the country today. And, you know, you couldn't help but kind of glance at it with Indiana and St. Louis on the other side of the next movement of the bracket. That with all the history, the recent history for this Marshall team that defeated that third-ranked squad in golden goal fashion in the 98th minute when they were ranked 10th and brought at the time Conference USA its first championship, and again put together one of those memorable and magical runs to College Cup supremacy. Couldn't help but kind of glance there and think about what might be in terms of a memorable rematch, and that with Indiana at last check still out in front of St. Louis 1-0 as it was coming toward the closing seconds of that match. Very much on the table if Marshall can come from behind here at Virginia, or either it would be the Cavaliers with chalk holding on both fronts for those two top 16 national seeds to meet right here at Klockner. If it goes that way, we'll check on the scoreboard for you throughout the course of this second half as more matches are in play. So many of them starting at 2 p.m. and then, of course, the other 8 in a night session that will complete the Sweet 16 at the end of this pivotal weekend in NCAA soccer action. Visa ends up playing this to the far side. Marshall given a early glance at it here in the second half, and now it's Virginia attempting to apply the pressure. That was handled by that back line for Marshall after it caromed off of Simla, and Virginia will not be able to double its advantage. Stays down this direction, Mangroff. Just the one sub in use for Marshall. Ibrahima Zope, the lone player that came on in support of that starting group for the Thundering Herd, and we saw a couple off the Virginia bench with a Bogu playing 9 minutes. And Oriwal playing just that many as well for UVA. This toward the middle, that again is that back line. Virginia saw Alfonso try to keep that alive. He'll turn, play this back this direction. That was destined for a potential header. Miller put that up. Potential bicycle taking place there was not to be. There's so many different things in that last sequence that Virginia attempted to do to get a shot at the face of the goal. None of which came to fruition. As a result, it stays 1-0 on the strength of that first half goal in the 28th minute from Horton. Promise to check on some of the other scores. Second half action, Pitt leads Akron. That's the 16 seed in some trouble at the hands of ACC squad. 2-0 the score there. Duke a 2-1 lead over that Denver team we referenced in talking about Virginia, how good they've been down the stretch since. That was in the 55th minute last check, 2-1 Blue Devils. Number of those matches getting underway at 2 o'clock. Cornell and Maryland. Syracuse, who Virginia saw in the ACC semis, and Penn underway, but freshly underway, so no score in either of those matches thus far. A little help up for Gashi. And another yellow going to be assessed Marshall's direction from Stephen Foster, who has to settle things early in this second half. Showed you that physical play at the break. It continues into the early stages of the second 45. And after an earlier conversation with Okiyoshi, this time around he has assessed the third caution to a Marshall player today. Virginia off the set piece. Sees this go into the back of that Thundering Herd wall. Four minutes and change gone in the second half. A little back and forth between Afonso and Visa, and then a left-footed clear for Marshall. Remember, Virginia out shooting Marshall. The final total in that first half was 11-5. That number having climbed by 1 thus far here in the second, even if Virginia has set up camp here in the attacking third. Just the one shot thus far, and cut a flip.
Marshall.
Is O'Connor as the latest foul call against Marshall is handed down. Take a look at O'Connor as he ended up the player on the turf when all was said and done. It's going to create a set piece for Virginia. Mengroff will play to Visa. There's a header just a bit high from Andreas Uland. Well, we have called Uland's name a number of times today, maximizing his eligibility, the latest of the products of Norway to make their mark on this Virginia program. He's been such a part of what Virginia has done, bridging the 2 tournament runs, the end of the long streak into the resurgence of this program here in 2022. And he has put together the highest shot total today for Virginia, has 4 of them. Pleads his case as he was tangled up in the end with Adam Aomash, and he will now receive a card in the 51st minute. A yellow assessed another member of the Thundering Herd. So think on the way this has gone now. Yellow's in the 17th minute to Souza. Albus in the 45th. Okiyoshi in the 49th, and now here in the 51st, you just saw what earned Aomash the yellow. Virginia quickly flips the field again. Uland comes up, effort to win the ball. Virginia will have the throw in. Just working that back to the keeper this time. Rolled out there by Simla. No, we're talking about that memorable run for Marshall for the national title. One of the things you had to love, the reaction, the response, the press conference after for now 6th-year head coach Chris Grassi after his team got the job done. And he said the thing he loved most about that team, the way they learned every lesson along the way. He said the feeling was undescribable, and the lessons learned most gratifying as they were able to get better and better, and as the 10th ranked team in the country at that time come away with that memorable championship moment. course, referring to 10-3 and golden goal fashion in the 98th minute against Indiana. You looked at the bracket, couldn't help but be reminded of it.
Foul, Virginia.
And it's now gone final. Official word having been handed down that Indiana took care of business against St. Louis. So the winner of this contest gonna take on the Hoosiers. That rolls up there and is smothered up again by Holden Brown. Boy, stepped out. That one had quite the English on it, and still he was able to cover it to keep it 1-0. Woodbrink, the decider in that
Foul, Virginia.
contest between Indiana and St. Louis, one of 16 with the one you're watching included, that will push teams forward into the next round of the NCAA tournament today. Pitt having crossed over 60 minutes in their contest with Akron, leading against the top 16 national seed. And Duke in the 62nd minute at last check, with the 2-1 lead still in effect on Denver. It's Duke, the 7 seed. We talked about the ACC schools and how impressive the league has been. 8 teams in the field, the most of any conference. Of course, Virginia and Syracuse among those top 4, with the path all the way through to the College Cup in Cary if the chalk holds and they continue to win. Deadened after it was off the header of Miller, and this pops high into the air. Brown had to make sure that was going to come down beyond the end line. But after carrying off of the Cavalier, it will result in a Marshall corner. And this Thundering Herd squad that has drawn 111 corners opposite 77 allowed its opponents, but today has seen Virginia create a couple more opportunities than they've enjoyed on these set pieces. Has a chance right here to level the match from the corner. Way away from home. Holden Brown just continued to chase the ball as it worked away, and in the end, it was in his grasp. Virginia in quick transition as he threw it out into open real estate for Horton. Cavaliers methodical as they look to add to a 1-0 advantage. It's cross toward Afonso. And then a shot that sails both wide and high to the right side. Results in a goal kick for Marshall. Shots for Virginia today, a couple of them for Afonso. A couple of them for Horton. He made one of those count, as you have seen on more than one occasion, in the back of the net. 3 for Allender and 4 of them for Andreas Ulan. Those have been the players with more than a single shot for Virginia among the 14 the Hoos have notched. And this will again settle in at the foot of Simla. Fans standing up on that fencing on the far side, enjoying the berm. They brought the layers and the blankets on a cool day here on grounds, but a memorable day that it is the return of NCAA tournament action to Charlottesville. After we talked about it, the long and well-documented streak broken after that 2019 run all the way to the title match. And it seems like a program with these kind of expectations has been a long, long way. And tournament action is here yet again. That laid out into open space. Here comes a cross and a header for Virginia. That was Kappelsberger who ended up clearing that for UVA. Of course, you're no doubt aware from 1980 to 2019, Virginia with that run of 39 consecutive appearances in the national tournament. And now back after the brief hiatus. So far, so good as we close in on 31 minutes remaining for a UVA team using a 28th minute goal from Philip Horton. Right outside the box, taken down. Here's the leading performer in goal scoring, Bell, trying to work toward open space, and it looks like a chance is coming for Marshall right at the top of the box. A bit slow getting up. Ayomash, who was taken to the deck as the clock has stopped, well, actually rolling with just over 30 left to play. Here's another glance at it. Tried to work between the two Virginia defenders, got tangled up with Allender. And this has the potential to be a scoring opportunity for Marshall if it holds where it is. Now, there's going to be a look at this as among all the other responsibilities today, our referee comes over to double check the assessment on this potential opportunity for Marshall. And you see how eagerly both teams await the verdict. And in the end, the location remains as the ball will be placed, and I mean right outside the box, for one of the better opportunities of the day on a set piece from just across the 18 for the Thundering Herd. Zope there. Souza trots into close proximity. Virginia has that wall set up. And it's right into that Virginia wall. So the potential equalizer turned away as UVA withstands the foul call from just at the top of the box. And now a deep breath for everybody on that Virginia side of things as Holden Brown takes a brief walk to allow things to transpire in front of him before putting a strong right foot into it. 6 shots for Marshall, 14 of them for Virginia. Just 1 shot on goal for Marshall today, interestingly enough, opposite 4 of those for UVA. Who's leading it inside 30 minutes to play now? 1-0. Will it stay there? There's a shot from outside the box for Virginia. That'll be high off the netting, and a Marshall goal kick is coming. It was Horton who sees his numbers continue to climb here, at least in looks. Little hand clap from the New Albany, Ohio native. It was he in the 28th minute. Who scored the Virginia goal, which continues to stand as the difference. He missed it when we talked about it a few moments ago. Indiana moving forward on the strength of a 1-0 victory over St. Louis. And that's the next immediate opponent for the winner of this one here. Also on the side of the bracket with Stanford and High Point, Ohio State, and UNCG. Talked about it, the transfer for Virginia coming over from UNCG, one of the key contributors this year, Daniel Mangroff, whose name we've called on more than one occasion. His former team, the Spartans, also occupying this particular quadrant of the bracket that Virginia owns the home field advantage all the way to the College Cup should the Cavaliers find a way to keep it. By surviving and advancing on days like this. For Marshall thus far today, a couple of shots from Alvis. He's the only player with more than a single look at the goal for the Herd. That played into an area where only Miller can chase it down. How about the takeaway? Thundering Herd looking to set up camp in the attacking third. Team that played for the title in 19 has 7 championships to their credit all time against a squad that just in behind that captured the imagination of the entire country with a title of their own. Going head-to-head on grounds this chilly Sunday in Charlottesville. And play into a highly entertaining 1-0 score right now. If you like physical soccer, this has been your day. 21 combined fouls between the two teams. We have seen 5 cautions handed down across the course of the day, and there's still 26 minutes plus remaining. Holden Brown takes his time. Just kind of lays that out there. It's on target where a couple of Virginia players, including Afonso and Horton, both located. Virginia comes away with the ball in the end. Little weave through traffic, but that's going to be off of one of those backline defenders for Marshall. And then a Virginia foul and a yellow card assessed as a result of this contact. Well, you could say this. Stephen Foster having to keep it handy right now. As that, when we were just talking about how physical the match has been, is the second caution assessed Virginia and the 6th in the match. Trotting away after receiving that is Gashi. Comes right to the middle, quick turnaround to maintain possession for an instant. Okioshi. Okioshi, whose name we've called more than once today, transferred in from Salt Lake Community College. Last year, 6 goals and 5 assists. Has A couple of goals and an assist for a 5-point total on the stat sheet for the crew out of Huntington this year. Matthew Bell, as yet, limited to just a single shot. Joseph, who had the first shot along the way from Marshall, also limited to just a single shot today. See if someone adds one here. Attempt to cross that. Here's Bell, tried the header. Little cleanup. That's off the crossbar, and then the putback in the end for who else? But Bell is true to level it. He led the way all season long with 9 goals and 4 assists for the Thundering Herd. And Bell, who kind of started this with that header, just continued to provide relentless effort, and after Karam is able to use the header on the rebound from the crossbar atop the goal to even things up at 1 apiece. And you can see the emotion bubble over from the freshman of the year in the conference as he has put his team back on equal footing with the tournament's 4 seed by breaking through. We were just talking about how he had been limited to a single shot today. Bell is able to double that total with Marshall's first goal of the afternoon to make it 1 apiece. The decisive goal in the 44th minute of the tournament opener, the 1-0 win against Elon for Marshall, came, as we told you, from Mohamed Sato. It was his first of the year. This time around, the initial goal of the second round comes from the premier goal scorer this season for the Thundering Herd, as Matthew Bell is able to finally work one by Holden Brown to level the match. Think about this. When you talk about the game and how many close calls there can be, and how just inches here or inches there can determine your postseason destiny, that came right off the crossbar in a prime location. Where Matthew Bell could drive it into the back of the net, and in doing so, the freshman from Jamaica, worked over from Kingston College, has evened things up at 1 apiece. Just the type of intensity that you would expect from a second round tournament battle. Here come the Herd again after the takeaway. There's Bell one more time. Just kind of played that off the side of his foot. Toward the middle, but that'll carry him up and into the grasp of Holden Brown, as they did work it in the general direction of Ao Mash, who was right there for the latest of Marshall's chances. So even though the Hoos have outshot the Herd 16-9, 1 goal apiece up on the board. Virginia's in the 28th minute from Philip Horton on the assist of Miller and Gashi, and Matthew Bell just a moment ago equalizing in the 66th minute. As he was able to play it right back off the crossbar and use the header into the back of the net. course, Zope credited with the assist on that, putting that first shot together that created the carom. For Bell to clean it up. That defended well by Virginia, just outside the box. Crossed in there. And just as quickly cleared out of the box. Hewlin to fight for it. This time, there will be no opportunity at nearly the same location as the earlier one for Marshall. Play now being stopped. As Virginia looks on with, looked like the training staff maybe was being called for. And is going to work its way over there with perhaps the right side of the head being held and intended to. Everything will come to a halt with 20:38 remaining here. Take a brief pause. With everything even at one apiece between Marshall and Virginia. Reese Miller up and moving for Virginia. And action just about to resume. Welcome sight there with 20:38 remaining. From the 28th minute up to the 66th minute, it looked as if Virginia may be headed forward. You knew a lot of soccer left and that Marshall was going to have a say at some point. They did. With the Matthew Bell goal a moment ago. Spring in the step, a lot of energy and confidence there for the Thundering Herd as they look to use this moment to push ahead for the first time today instead of Virginia throw-in coming as Visa gets ready to take it. Indiana awaiting an opponent. The question, will they stay in Bloomington if Marshall can find a way forward from this match? And what would be a memorable renewal of that battle we talked about a little bit earlier in the half, the most memorable of the moments in the history of the Marshall program. Or is Virginia going to stay right here? The path is there for UVA all the way to the College Cup to play at Klockner if they can continue to advance. But these two teams right now with the goals evenly distributed, one apiece. Holden Brown in the shadows sends this forward across the midfield.
Substitutions entering for the Cavaliers.
Visa
Number
again
6,
picks it up.
Jeremy Burley.
Cavaliers going to call on the services of Jeremy Verley.
Entering for Marshall.
Speaking of natives of Jamaica, here's another.
Number 17.
Listed officially as a fourth year on the roster, one of those seniors. As the terminology still goes on grounds. We're still living in that world where seniors are one thing, super